Hey, what's up guys, it's Hansol here, and today I present to you the first installment of Fire Duels. In this video, I fight Cobrak. Many of you guys might know him as a Destruction Warlock from EU, and also you guys might ask, how did you guys meet up and fight if he's from the EU servers? Well, he was actually able to copy his character to the US PTR, and that's where we met up and had some epic duels. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. Alright, so the setup that I like to use is Scorch, Ice Barrier, Ring of Frost, Cold Snap, Living Bomb, and Encounter's Ward. This is just the basic setup that I use, but you can alternatively take Frostjaw over Ring of Frost, because versus any casters, Frostjaw is very great. So for my glyphs, Glyph of Deep Freeze, Glyph of Evocation, and Glyph of Polymorph. Alright, so before hopping into a fight, it's very good to know and be prepared what your enemy can do. So for example, knowing the enemy's spells and being able to predict what they'll do is very effective in WoW PvP. So before we actually get started on the guide, I want to go over a few of the Warlock offensive and defensive abilities. So here we go. The first one is called Dark Soul. And what this does is it grants a powerful effect based on your specialization for 20 seconds. So depending on what spec the lock's playing, in this case it's Destro, they're going to get a great amount of buffs. So it can either be haste, mastery, or crit. So when this is up, the Warlock becomes very deadly. So what you want to do is try to CC them, try to silence them, or if you can, line of sight. But the worst part of this is this spell used to be spell stealable, but now it can't be, so the best you can do is just line of sight, CC, and silence. The next one is called Backdraft. This is a buff that locks get, and it stacks up to, I believe, 9 stacks. And how he gets these stacks is he uses Conflagrate, which also slows you, and using that gives him 3 stacks each time, I believe. I might be wrong, it's either 3 or 6. But when he has this up, it means he'll be able to cast Incinerates faster, which is his main damage dealing ability. It's not the strongest, but it's his main one. Or also it can make your Chaos Bolt cast faster, but only for 1 use. That's what Pyroclasm does, is another whole new spell. But anyways, when he has this up, you're actually able to spell steal this, so if you have nothing better to do, it'd be a good idea to take that off the lock. It's very effective. Alright, so this has probably been the best expansion for Warlocks when it comes to defensive abilities, because they gained a shit ton of defensives this expansion. So let's go over them. The first one is Dark Bargain, which prevents all damage for 8 seconds, but once the shield fades, 50% of the damage prevented will be dealt over 8 seconds. So it's pretty much saving your ass for the time being, but taking the hit later on. So it's probably the best idea not to pop all your offensive abilities when this is up. It's okay to damage them just because it will do damage later on, but try not to pop your Combustion, DPS Trinket Pyros and all that into them when this is up. Once again, it's not a terrible idea, but it's not the best. The second one is Unbound or Will. So this is pretty much a second trinket for the Warlock. If they choose it, keep in mind this is a talent. They can either choose this or Blood Fear, which is an instant fear that also puts it on a cooldown. But the lock I was fighting was using both. Like he was swapping Blood Fear for this for a couple duels, and then using Blood Fear for another few duels. Alright, so the third one is Dark Regeneration. It restores 30% of the lock and the pet's health, and it also increases the healing received by 25% for 12 seconds. So it's pretty much, a heal over time, a hot for them. Most Warlocks that I fight like to actually use Dark Bargain first to prevent the damage and heal themselves over time. So yeah, you pretty much have to kill a Warlock like twice now. But it shouldn't be a problem for a mage, but once in a while you will fight a good Warlock that knows how to counter you. Anyways, the last one is called Grimoire of Service. So what this does is it instantly summons a second demon who fights for 20 seconds. So what the lock's going to do is actually summon a second Fellhound. So that means they'll have 2 counter spells. So even though they've counterspelled you once already, they'll be able to summon a new demon and counterspell you again. So keep an eye out for that, because it might catch you off guard. Anyway, since now you know the Warlock abilities, let's move on to the real guide. Here are a few things to keep in mind when fighting a good Destruction Warlock. Number 1 is try to stick on their ass at all times, because once they get away from you and gain that little distance, they're actually going to be able to cast Aura Mastery Chaos Bolt into, which is a very long cast, but it will be unstoppable because it's Aura Mastery, so that means you're not going to be able to counterspell or silence them. The only way to avoid this is if you line of sight them, or if you're close enough to Dragon's Breath them into a ring or Frostjaw them. So that's why it's very important to stay near a lock. You kind of have to play like a melee, but this is what you have to do in order to be successful at beating a good Warlock. Because also at the same time, a good Warlock will be able to kite you. So this brings on another question, is once you finally get to them, they'll port away, right? And then it's going to just reset the whole kiting process all over again. One good way to counter this is to save your blink, much like saving your blink for after Death Knight grips you. It's kind of the same concept. So try to save your blink for after they port. That way you can just blink it and reposition yourself and continue bursting. You have to keep up high pressure when fighting a lock, otherwise, you know, you will fall behind. Especially with them having a lot of defensives. If you take too long, the defensives will come back up and it'll reset the fight for them, but there'll be no way for you to reset it unless you're using Evo Glyph. But it's still going to be hard for you to get that full Evo off with their pet being able to CS you and all. Another thing to keep in mind is a lock's pet will dispel you. So a lock has something called Dispel Magic or something like that. It's on like a 8-second cooldown, I believe. And what it can do is, for example, if you have a hot streak proc and you're about to throw that juicy pyro right into his face, boom, they'll just dispel it off of you, and that completely counters your burst. So one way of avoiding this isn't 100% guaranteed, but this is a good way to cover up and blanket your proc, is to slow fall yourself. I know it sounds weird, it's like, what do you mean slow fall myself? Well, this is actually called trash buffs. So slow falling yourself actually gives a chance for the pet to spell steal that slow fall off you instead of the pyro. So if he does get unlucky enough to get the slow fall instead of the hot streak, it pretty much wastes its 8-second cooldown on the spell, and you gave him a trash buff, and instead of him benefiting from taking your hot streak, he actually pretty much got nothing out of it. So if you kind of understand what I mean here, trash buffs are a very good way to try to cover up your important procs and your important spells. Alright, so now since we've gone over why and how you should stick on a Warlock's ass, let me show you some good examples of doing so. If this video helped you out whatsoever, please feel free to click the like button down below, because what this does is it lets me know if I'm actually helping people or not, and if it gets a decent amount of likes, I'll actually continue these 1v1 guides for all the classes out there and all the specs. Also, if you want to check out the fired burst rotation video, you can check that down below. And also, don't forget to click and check out Cobrak's channel. He's the lock that I just fought, and he's a really skilled Warlock. He makes some sick videos, so go over to his channel and show him some support. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.